welcome everybody. Welcome to Delegate Like a Boss. We are so excited to have you join us today for this 1 hour conversation. And in today's call, our host Candace Tate will take us through what is delegation, the benefits of delegation, ways that you can improve your delegation skills, and how the role of a virtual assistant can help you in the various tasks, and how virtual assistants can assist entrepreneurs by handling those routine tasks, managing schedules, and more, all of those things you just learned about in delegation. So before we dive in, I have a little bit of housekeeping. This call is being recorded, and we will release the recording in the coming weeks. And this is a meeting style event, so we ask that you keep yourself on mute. However, this is interactive. So feel free to participate with questions or comments as Candace is doing the presentation. You can just raise your hand, use the chat, come off mute, and Candace will ensure that she grabs your question and responds to it. And if you hear something you like, please feel free to use the reaction bottoms at the bottom of the screen. You can applaud, cheer, or use any other emoji that you like. And lastly, I invite you to jump into the chat now and take a moment to introduce yourself, share your pronouns, and why you decided to attend Delegate Like a Boss. So now let's get started. My name is Jenna Clockley, and I am the Director of Membership and Community here at the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, or CanWCC, as we call it for short. My pronouns are she, her, and I normally welcome people to all of the events from the land that I normally live on, which is the unceded and unsurrendered lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Ojibwe Cree, the Dakota and Dene peoples, and home to the Métis Nation covered in Treaty 1, colonially known as Winnipeg, Manitoba. However, today I am in the city where the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce operates out of, which is on the traditional lands of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in what is colonially known as Toronto, Ontario. And if you are looking for the Indigenous lands you are on, you can visit native-land.ca for the treaties and the original keepers of what is known today as Canada. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce is the first and only Chamber of Commerce for women identified and non-binary business owners in Canada. And as a Chamber of Commerce, we represent your needs with the government, and our position and a title as a chamber give us access to the people who impact change. And we exist to improve the quality of life for the over 1 million entrepreneurial Canadian women and non-binary peoples through advocacy with policymakers, and we aim to build a healthier and more inclusive Canadian economy. We are here to amplify the stories and the voices of women and non-binary entrepreneurs, and to fight for their economic equity. And now, let me introduce to you CanWCC member and your speaker today, Candace Tate. Candace is a digital creator from Edmonton, Alberta, and she considers herself a multi-potentialite with experience in various industries wearing multiple different hats. With her experience as an all figure it out and her all figured out attitude, she puts her best foot forward as a virtual assistant. Primarily a marketing VA, she also works with virtual gurus as a community coordinator and a mentor for new virtual assistants. So without further ado, let's welcome Candace. Yay, Candace.
Hello, everybody. To start with, because I didn't put it in the chat, my pronouns are she, her. And as Jenna said, I am a virtual assistant. I work with the virtual gurus. I also run a company called +2 Creative. Apparently I have no chill because I've chosen that entrepreneur life in many, many ways, which, I mean, obviously you all have too. It's a good life. I enjoy it. Yeah. So welcome everybody to Delegate Like a Boss. I am going to share my screen here before I forget about that part. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? Perfect. Okay, cool. So welcome. And as Jenna said as well, today I'm going to talk about the art of delegating and how delegating can make your life as an entrepreneur way better. So as we go through everything and as I'm talking, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I don't have the chat open, but Jenna will be looking at the chat. If there's any questions that come up in the chat, please feel free to ask there. If you would prefer to speak to me about something privately, I'm also going to have my contact information on a slide at the end of the show. Or if you're a part of the CWCC, you can find me on our Circle app. So we're just going to get right into this today. Because of my, I guess, unique situation as a virtual assistant, as also an entrepreneur, I have been on both sides of delegating. So I have been the delegator, but I have also been the delegated to. So I've seen both angles of how that works, and how that affects both sides of people. And that's part of why I chose to talk about this today, because I feel like sometimes when we say delegation, we can, it tends to be like something of a little bit of a buzzword, and maybe like people aren't exactly sure what's going on there. But I wanted to help, bring delegation more to the forefront, and especially ways that it can help entrepreneurs. So the first thing that I want to start off with is I have a question for you all. And feel free to use a reaction or put in the chat. So how many of you today have something that you need to do for your business? I do. I feel like we all do. Yes. And it can be, it can be anything from like checking your emails, going through contacts, posting to social media, checking LinkedIn. Like there's a million billion mile long list of things that we all have to do today. And then I would also challenge you to take a moment to think about how much time is the stuff that you have to do, the one thing or the many things. How much time is that going to take you? Do you know? Is it something that you have to set aside a block of time for? Does it vary sometimes? Is it one of those things you've just been dreading and putting off? What sort of tasks are come to mind, and what sort of timing does that mean for you as an entrepreneur? I took a little bit of time to research kind of the common places that entrepreneurs and professionals spend their time. So I'm sure that you can all relate to this. Big chunk of time is meetings. Meetings for sure. Emails are also a big one. The text got cut off, but unscheduled communications. So, those fun little interruptions that like to help you or like to come in through your day. Yep. Those are big too. Waiting for people to get back to you, also a big one. And you'll notice that a lot of these things are kind of things that you're just doing to like maintain, like when you're going through and waiting on emails or waiting on people to get back to you, it's kind of just like a maintenance kind of thing, and it's one of the things that are going to happen, but you're kind of like, I'm a little bit unsure. And while I was looking up these stats, I also found some interesting information in that about 33% of business owners tend to work over 50 hours per week. So that's more than a full-time job. And I'm sure that we can all relate to that. Because, when you own your own business, it's like sometimes it can be 24/7. I've also saw that 10% of people who own businesses feel overwhelmed pretty regularly by the things that they have to do. I also found that 57% of small business owners find the time to go on vacation, but it's usually not a full vacation. They don't tend to, they'll shorten it if they go on one. But on the flip side, 70% of small business owners prefer to do everything on their own. That's just what they like to do. Do we have anybody in the group that prefers to do everything on their own? Because I know I do. I like to do things by myself. I'm one of those as well. So I wanted to give us kind of an idea, maybe, and start thinking about how, we're preferring to do everything on our own, but you can kind of see where our time is kind of sinking in a little bit. And then I've also found with people who are entrepreneurs, sometimes you'll get caught in this cycle. So the cycle always starts with, okay, you've got something to do. You've got your task. You're good. Let's go. Let's do this. You're high energy. You want to finish your task. Everything's good. But as you push through it, you're like, okay, I can still do this. I can push through this task. Things are piling up, but you know what? I'll get it done. Everything will be good. I can do it. I can do it. And then as everything progresses, you're like, oh my God, I hate this. Why am I doing this task again? And then you end up being stressed out because, even though you know that the task is coming and you know that, you have to do it, it's something very important for you to do, you can't ignore it. Like eventually you just end up at this point where you're just so stressed out at this repetitive task. And it's just an additional stress that on top of having your business, having your family, having your personal life, all that other stuff that makes up your life, it just adds to it. But what if I told you that there was a way that you could free up your time and make that cycle a whole lot easier for you? And by freeing up your time, you could work on growing your business or improving your work-life balance. Is that something y'all would want to do? Maybe take some time from some repetitive tasks and put it into something that you might be more interested in? Yeah, I thought so. And that's delegating, baby. That's where delegation comes in. And that's why we're talking about it today. So I believe with delegating, we can take some of those more stressful tasks and open you up to being able to do some more things in your life and in your business. So here's a bit of a high-level rundown of what we're going to be talking about. Jenna's already gone over it, so I'm just going to skim through. As a reminder, we're going to talk about what delegation is, benefits, how you can improve your delegation, and how a virtual assistant can help you, because we can, and we will. First and foremost, what is delegation? As per the Google, delegation is to entrust a task or responsibility to another person. That's as simple as it is, but also as complex as it is, because if we remember back to our statistic from the beginning, 70% of entrepreneurs like to do things themselves. So it's easier said than done, I find. But why should you delegate? Why can't you just do everything yourself? Because I know I've thought of that before. I love doing everything myself, but delegation helps you to lighten your workload, which, if we remember again, can help you take those vacations you want, can help you feel less overwhelmed with life and all of the things that you have to do. It also allows you to focus on the parts of your business that make money. Because if we think back to our chart, if you are in meetings, waiting for people to talk to you, checking emails, having people interrupt you as you go through things, that's kind of stuff to just keep the business going, and you have to do it, but it might not necessarily be stuff that is helping you grow the business. It's more working on the business than working to expand the business. So delegation can help you take your daily tasks and sort of reassign them to somebody else so that you can build more and have that freedom to do that. It also helps you learn about yourself and become a better leader. Delegating is not an easy thing to do, and we do like doing things all by ourselves. And so it's challenging for us mentally. But ultimately, it makes you a better leader, because the more that you're able to delegate things and interact with people, the better a leader you become. It can also teach you new things about a task, because if you delegate the task out to somebody else, they might try something that you never even thought of before. They might be able to help you streamline it. They might be able to help you automate it. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So maybe you can find a better way to take care of these tasks and just lighten that load on yourself as well. So you can also learn a lot from delegating. Ultimately, delegating gives you more time to yourself. Again, going back to work-life balance, if you're not, if you're not stressing about all the repetitive tasks that you have to do, then, you have more time to look after yourself or look after your family, look after your business, whatever you choose to do. It frees up your time, and then that gives you more choice with what you want to do with it. Delegating also creates a safety net in emergencies, which I don't think we think about too much. But if you delegate a task out to someone, then you don't necessarily have to worry if something happens. Like, for example, if you have, we'll go back to emails. You have your emails that you need answered every single day. You have a 24-hour turnaround time. But something happens, maybe a family emergency or a pet emergency, something where you're out of the office for the day and you can't fulfill that commitment to do the 24-hour turnaround. If you've delegated that out, you can go and deal with whatever you need to do, but it's still getting done while you're dealing with that. So it helps to, keep you safe just in case something happens, because you never know in this crazy world. So that's also something to think about. Delegating frees your brain to be more creative, which can be either, the traditional sense of creative, where you're, more of an artistic kind of thing, or just to help you more creatively solve problems. Because as an entrepreneur, we might not necessarily follow the traditional creative process, but we always have to be creative with solving problems. We always have to be creative with the solutions we have. So if you have more free space in your brain, that gives you a little more creative energy so you can help solve those problems better. Delegating ultimately reduces your stress, which I think we could all use less stress, regardless of what industry we work in or where we are at with our business. Everybody could use less stress. And delegating helps your business grow. It's all about growing. Now, there's going to be certain times where you're like, should I delegate this? I don't know. Is delegating the best option for me for this specific task? So I've found that delegation works best when a task is time consuming. You can teach it to someone, and or if you hate it. It's probably more particularly if you hate it. If a task is time consuming, it's often repetitive. It can get mindless. Something you have data entry, even things like social media scheduling, that takes up a big chunk of time, making sure you have everything posted the way you want to. Filing things can take up a lot of time. There's lots of repetitive things that we do every day. And if the task is taking up a big chunk of your time, you might want to consider delegating it. If the task can be taught, chances are you can delegate it out to someone. Because if you can teach it, someone else can do it. And that can be anything from like helping you manage your office, schedule meetings, anything that you can sit someone down, tell them how you want it to look from your side, and they can take it and run with it, and you can delegate it to them. I'm a big proponent of delegating a task when you hate it, because I don't know about you all, but when I hate doing something and I'm forced to do it, it elevates my stress levels, and I usually take longer to do it because I don't want to do it. So if it's draining your energy, delegate it out. My example for this that I always fall to for myself is taxes. I don't like doing taxes. I can do them, but I don't want to. So it's better for me to delegate that to an accountant because, yeah, it's just better for everyone in that situation. They can do what they're good at, and I'll stay out of what I'm not good at, and everybody's happy. But don't get me wrong, delegating is hard. Your business is your baby. You have been with it since its formation into the world, since before then, when you were just thinking about it. It is, oftentimes your sole source of your livelihood. Your business is very important. And trusting that with other people is huge. It's a lot. It is not just easy. It's not as easy to say, oh, just delegate this out to someone and you won't have any emotions following that. That's not what's going to happen. And of course, it's just natural for us to want everything to be right. We don't want there to be mistakes. We want there to be like a certain way that things go. We have expectations for everything, including our business. So that's just natural. But while it is difficult, in the long run, if you can open up and learn to trust people enough to delegate tasks, it's going to be better for you. And I was thinking about it and I thought, I'm like, if you just pictured your business now and then pictured it in the future, and let's say you're as big as Apple or Microsoft or McDonald's or any other giant company that everybody's heard of, you couldn't run that by yourself. The people that run those companies can't run it by themselves. So at some point, you will need to delegate out tasks. And the more that you can get comfortable with it now, the better it will be in the long run. So how do we get better at delegating? For the first little bit, it is going to be uncomfortable, and you will have to sit with that discomfort. So I think that part of it is just accepting that, okay, this is going to be weird and uncomfortable for a little bit. I'm an advocate of practicing. So, it takes practice to learn to get your brain to adjust to trusting people with your tasks. So practicing is huge, which we'll go into a little bit more in the next slide. Also, have patience with yourself because, like I said, delegating is not easy. And have patience with others while you're both learning the task, because while you're teaching someone a task, they're also learning about the task and they're also learning about you. So, just try to be patient as best you can with yourself and with others. Remember that you can still be amazing and have people help you. I think that sometimes, we think that if we do everything ourselves and we ask for help, that maybe asking for help can diminish us a little bit, but it doesn't. There's enough good praises and good vibes for everybody, and you can still be amazing even though you're delegating. And actually, delegating might make you more amazing because you'll have less stress and you'll have more time. So don't forget, you can still be great and also get help. And you're also allowed to be vulnerable. You can just straight up say, like, you know what, delegation is hard for me. I have a hard time giving people tasks. And so I would like to work with you so that I can make that better. It's totally fine just to admit that. It's cool. It's all good. The big thing while you're learning to get better at delegating as well is to communicate. Always communicate. And communication is kind of the the line that ties everything together with how you'll get better at it. You're going to, if you're going to need to provide training to people, you're going to need to communicate. If you want someone else to take on a task, you need to provide them instructions and give them clear expectations. So you need to communicate. There's going to be check-ins and feedback. So there's going to be communication there. So do your best to communicate, and communication will be your best friend. I promise. When you're training people, try to be as clear in your instructions as you are able to be. Let them know what your expectations are. For example, how long you expect the task to take. They might have some other opinions on that, so also be open to, maybe some different ideas. You also want to make sure that you're clear on what the priority is, any of your deadlines, and any other expectations that you might have. And always remember that if you're delegating to someone, if you don't tell them, chances are they don't know. So again, make sure that you're very clear in your communication and your expectations. I also recommend that people check in and provide feedback, because, especially in the beginning, when you're delegating on a task, you're not 100% sure on how that person is going to work, and you're still kind of learning about each other. So checking in and giving feedback is always good. You can also, and I've had this happen with clients myself, is ask the person to check in at different steps in the task so that you can both coordinate and see how it's going. So, for example, if you're getting someone to help you do social media posts, maybe ask them to do one post design and one set of copy, and then check that, go through it, provide the feedback, and then move on to the next one. And then eventually you can do a week at a time. Eventually you can do more. But just for the beginning, while you're learning about each other, just start small and build up on that and check in. And, the person that's helping you will eventually learn what you like. Also, in the previous slide, I had mentioned practicing, and I think that ties into having the little check-ins along the way. Because if you can give people, or if you can start yourself with small tasks, eventually you can, grow into bigger things. It's pretty overwhelming if you delegate to someone, your entire everything on the first day without knowing them. It's a little bit weird, it probably doesn't feel great. People do it. You can do it if you want to do it. But if you have a hard time with delegating, taking those little tasks and building on them will help you feel better about it. And also remember to say thank you to the person that you are delegating to, because, everybody likes to be thanked and they're helping you. So it's always good to be polite. And in order to help you delegate tasks, I've created this template that y'all can have. It's pretty blank. The graphic designer in me is like, it's pretty blank. But you can feel free to do with it as you will, brand it if you want to, do whatever you want with it. I just created it as something of an outline so that, if you have someone who's coming in to do a task for you, then you can fill this in as a bit of a starting point. And as you learn to delegate more, then you can change it. Maybe eventually you don't need this list. But I just wanted to give you something that could give you a starting point for delegating and how to make that better and how to communicate better so that the delegating goes the best right from the get-go. And on top of the template, a starting point for delegating means that you obviously need someone to delegate to. Maybe preferably someone who's reliable, someone who's trained. someone perhaps who is pre-vetted by a large company so that you know that they're already an outstanding individual and that you already have a level of trust built with them and that they're a great starting point to delegate to. And that is why I also want to talk about virtual assistants, because as a virtual assistant, but not only as a virtual assistant, I work with virtual assistants every day and I love them and they're great. And I wish I had my own. And I want to share the goodness of virtual assistants with everybody. And they can definitely, most definitely help you with delegating. But what is a virtual assistant? A virtual assistant is an independent contractor who provides administrative services, among others, to clients while operating outside of the client's office. I operate in my home. It's great. You can delegate tasks to your virtual assistant. And in a lot of ways, having a virtual assistant is a benefit over having a full-time employee. Depending on where your business is at, you might not necessarily have the income or even the amount of work for a full-time employee. So having a virtual assistant can be pretty cost effective since they're contracted only for specific things. So you don't run into that, the issue of, when sometimes you just have no work and you still have someone on the clock and they just kind of have to sit there and you're like, I don't know what to do. Virtual assistants, we don't really have that. So they can be more cost effective. Also, chances are they're already trained on the tools and the scope of work that you need them to do. So most of the training is already done. You just kind of have to teach them what you like. So for example, again, as myself, as a social media and marketing VA, I know already how to work a bunch of different marketing platforms, social media platforms. You don't have to spend time coming in and teaching me about Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. I already know that stuff. I just need to know what you want. So that cuts a lot of training time out of it too. And it also makes us ready to get to work a lot faster. So that, once we learn how you like to do things and what your procedures are, we can just kind of give her from there. I keep losing my mouse. Okay. What sort of things can virtual assistants do? We do all the things. This is kind of just the base of what we do at Virtual Gurus. So you can have an executive assistant, which I know we have some in the audience, and executive assistants are beautiful, wonderful angels who basically come in and take care of everything. They help you with your workflow, they help you with your personal tasks, they help you with your professional tasks. They come in and they take care of everything. And I love them. So if you need someone who, is really, really close to you and helping you with your schedule, helping you with all of your day-to-day tasks, an executive assistant is the way to go. An administrative assistant, also a wonderful, multi-talented person. And they handle anything. Basically, if you think of anything in an administrative office, chances are the administrative assistant can do it, just not in the office. So they have a lot of skills, and they can jump right in and help you to manage just about everything in your office. We also have bookkeeping assistants. So if you're like me and taxes are incredibly daunting, you can have a bookkeeping assistant come in and help you. They can help you manage your records, and kind of keep the monthly bookkeeping tasks going. They're not an accountant, so you still need to submit things to your accountant. They can help keep you organized through the year so you're not overwhelmed every year at the same time, trying to get everything together. Marketing assistants, we are also magical unicorns, and we can do, website content, blog posts, help you with email campaigns, anything that we can do to help you with your current marketing, we will do. And having a marketing assistant is super duper handy because sometimes a lot of the things that we take on take a lot of time. So, being able to delegate out things like blog posts is super helpful so that you can take that time and use it somewhere else. Social media assistants, we call them the Up with the Times gurus. They help you build your brand on social media, which a lot of people do find social media intimidating. So having a social media assistant come in and just kind of take care of that for you, great, perfect, love it. Social media is also time consuming. So, again, having someone there to free up the time. There's also sales assistants. So if you need help reaching out to customers, engaging with customers, things with like cold calls, helping you with leads, stuff like that, sales assistants can help you. And we do also have specialized assistants in different industries. We have legal assistants, medical office assistants, and real estate assistants. Legal assistants, obviously, legal, medical, and real estate in different places, different provinces all have different regulations that they need to pay attention to. There are things like, I know that medical office assistants need to have special skills like knowing medical terminology. Sometimes they have to do things like transcription. So these people are specialized with specialized training to help you if you're in that specific industry. So let's go back to our cycle, because now you're delegating. And when you get a task, you're delegating, you're like, oh, all right, cool. I've got a task. I'm going to give it to someone. I'm going to give it to my virtual assistant. So you send the task to your virtual assistant and you send them the instructions and you send them your expectations and they say, yep, I got this. I can do that for you. Good to go. And then while your virtual assistant works on that, you work on other stuff. And you can focus on things to build your business. You can work on that project you've always wanted to start but never had time. You can go hang out with your kids, whatever you want to do. The virtual assistant's taking care of it, and they'll help you and communicate with you as they need to. And then, huzzah, it's done. The VA is done. Your task is completed. They're ready for more, and there's no stress in this wheel. So you're good. So you've gotten... Now that you have the VA in there helping you, now have two people, you're doing two people's worth of work. So look at how much you've accomplished and look at how much your stress has been down. It's great. Everything's great. And because I believe in the power of virtual assistants and I love them with all my heart, I want to extend out a special deal to all of our Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce members from Virtual Gurus. So if you go to virtualgurus.com and you use the code CWN 2023, you can get 20% off 20 hours. So if you're unsure about delegating, or if, maybe you want to take a VA for a spin, maybe kind of see what's out there, I would love to offer you 20% off. Please, if you can tell them that I sent you if you want to, whatever you want to do. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to have a little bit of a discount on VA, because like I said, I think they're great. Also, in that same line, if anybody is interested in being a VA as a side hustle, that's also an option. I can totally help you out and talk to you with that talk about that with you as well. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, please let me know. Because that's also another path in the road of entrepreneuring that you can do. So if you're passionate about helping people and you've got a lot of different skills, it might be something for you. So feel free to ask about it. So to summarize, delegating is a great way to help you save time on your tasks so that you can take that time and invest it back into where you want. It can help you build your business. It can help you grow. It can help you spend more time on yourself. It's not easy, but if you practice, you'll get better at it. And I think that you'll find once you're done the practice and you've got someone helping you and you're feeling better, you'll probably eventually you're going to reach a point where you're like, delegating is no big deal. I don't believe I ever had this problem before. And you'll just, it'll just be so easy and you'll feel a lot better. Also, please use the handy dandy delegating template as you need to. Again, feel free to change it up. It's not written in stone. Do whatever you need to do to help it. A virtual assistant can be a great start for getting help. And like I said, I want to give you a chance to get a discount on one if you're interested. So feel free to do that at thevirtualgurus.com. And does anybody have any questions? I wasn't looking at the chat. Wow.
There wasn't a lot that came in. I mean, there was just like kudos for all the breaking down of everything, but like one thing that popped into my head when you showed the list of like virtual assistant positions or things you can hire a virtual assistant for, also making me think about when I'm running my business, how I can structure even the work I'm doing. Like, even if I have to do it myself right now, I can be like, oh, this is something that I could put in this bucket over here. Like a sales assistant was something I had no idea that virtual assistants would do, but like that, bucketing that work and saying like, how do I document this process I'm doing right now? Because I know that I want my business to grow and I don't want to be doing this forever. It's like, oh, I could do that right now. And this chart was like so helpful. Or even if I was looking for an intern and, interns are another place you don't know how to delegate, or like, what do I give to the student? And like, if I break it in a bucket like this, okay, this is what my intern will do. Or here's how I can apply for an intern because I need one specifically for this. So it just gave me so much that I was just like, wow.
Good to know. And I mean, this is also something you can consider if maybe perhaps your business has volunteers, just anybody that can come in and help you. These are some buckets that are good starting points, definitely. Some of them, like obviously the specialized industry stuff, maybe not so much because, you might not be able to find like someone with legal experience that is more of a volunteer, but definitely things like administration, sales, social media, like those are really good starting points for interns or volunteers as well.
So does anyone have any questions for Candace? Like, please feel free to come off mute. Maybe there's something that you saw here you just want to ask a question about. Nothing. It was just so perfect, Candace. You hit everything that everybody needed, really great.
Well, because I don't believe that. I will still pop up my contact information so that if anybody has anything they want to ask me, they can. I'm just looking at the chat now.
Yeah,
How do
there's
I
one
feel?
here.
How do I feel about new AI automations compared to a person? I feel like after thinking about it for a long time, AI is a tool. So I think that it still needs to have a person behind it. I don't think that, like, for some people, having an AI alone might be able to help. I think I've seen ads for like Motion or something where they're like, this is my assistant who costs me 20 cents a day or whatever. And after, my huff of being slightly insulted, when I think about it, like, that tool is still one extra thing that my client would have to do. So chances are they probably wouldn't be into it, So I think that having a tool is great, but I think that ultimately having the person there adds a different dynamic. Plus you need someone who knows how to use the tool. Plus a lot of our jobs involve building a relationship. Like our clients get to know us as people and we get to know them. And especially when you're in a role like an EA, an executive assistant, like you are right in there in someone's life. And so, it's not just about the tasks you do. Oftentimes it's about the people. And I don't think that AI can replicate that. Like, I don't think that AI can it could message my client on their birthday, but I don't think it's going to, replace that warm, fuzzy feeling of me doing it myself, or like making them a card, or sending them a picture of my cat, which I have clients that I do that for. So yeah, that's my hot take on it. I'm cool with AI, honestly. Like it saves me a lot of time, but it's a tool. It's cool. It's fun.
I will take this opportunity to say that the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce is hosting a panel on AI and the bias of AI, because that's another thing that we are seeing in the AI world, is that there is bias inside of humanity. Therefore, there's bias inside of the answers or the work that AI does as well. Yep, coded bias.
Interesting.
So we are hosting an event on that in July 13th. It's going to be a panel discussion. So save the date for now, but it will all be up in the circle where I posted the links in the chat already, but that will be an open event for anyone to attend. So I'll put more links in the chat as we wrap up, but yeah, definitely a conversation to join if that's something you're interested in learning more about.
Very interesting. That is, I have a feeling that that's going to be a really interesting panel. Cool. All right. Well, I am done. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, everybody in the chat that asked questions.
Yes, it was so wonderful, Candace. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming. I know we had a lot of people today sign up for this event that might not have come to the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce before. So we just want to thank you for being here, and also thank Candace for this incredible and super helpful presentation along